One of the biggest takeaways for me in this whole journey, again, is just the authenticity piece. It's like be true to yourself. And I think as entrepreneurs, again, we get so seduced by all the shiny objects, all there's a million strategies, they all technically work or they can work, but which ones, having tried so many different strategies, and a lot of them I'm like, I can see why this works. I see it working for other people, but it doesn't feel right for me. Like it doesn't feel, it's not an integrity for me to do something this way. So then I just opt out, or I'm like, it's fine, I can do it, but I don't enjoy it.
Martians landed.
Yes.
Wearing Prada suits.
Yes.
Drinking Henry's seltzer.
Yes.
Chewing juicy fruit.
Yes, and?
Your branding here.
Yes, brand.
Your message here.
Yes, and?
A verse about
Yes.
your product here.
Yes.
I'm Hersh Redmond.
Yes, and?
I'm a message therapist.
Yes.
And I have a podcast.
Yes, brand.
That's right, that's it.
Yes.
We'll help you fix the world.
Yes.
Or your bottom line.
All right.
Your bottom line.
Get it. I get it. Welcome to the Yes Brand Podcast.
With me in the Yes Brand hot seat today is Sandra Possing. Sandra is a lifestyle entrepreneur, which sounds completely like just dead on, lifestyle entrepreneur. But as we'll discuss, there's different facets to it. There's certainly a different way that she goes about it. She's a dynamic speaker, a coach, and helps driven millennial women uplevel their finances, manifest their dream lives. Sandra was born in Scandinavia, raised in LA, where I lived for many years, almost 2 decades, and currently is based in the San Francisco Bay Area, beautiful area. She embodies the digital nomad lifestyle and runs her personal development company from her laptop wherever she goes. And it's a very enviable lifestyle. And Sandra, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super stoked to be here and very curious to see where this goes.
Yeah, very stoked to have you. Okay. So a lot of assumptions can be made about somebody who lives what we call now the digital nomad lifestyle. But tell the audience, from your point of view, what it means to you and how it happened.
Yeah. So what it means to me is to have the option to be nomadic. It doesn't mean, so this is my husband and I, it doesn't mean that we are doing van life. It doesn't mean that we are in a new country every week or anything like that. We decided early on when we first got together, and once I sort of had the option to work virtually and he was sort of looking in that direction, we realized that we shared some really deep core values around freedom and around authenticity and around like adventure and play and stuff. So kind of back in our early days, we were living in San Francisco, which is very expensive. And we realized that we could probably travel for cheaper than we could just live where we lived. And so we were like, okay, screw it, let's do it. So we got married, we sold everything, we bought a one-way ticket, and then we just left. And we said, family and friends, we'll see you maybe in a year. We're not sure. And so we just traveled. We ended up traveling through 11 countries for 10 months that year.
Oh, wow.
And that was kind of the first like test case to see, can we do it? I mean, do we even like each other enough to travel full time together? Can I run my business remotely? Everything worked out beautifully. And then we came back, and since then we've experimented with other sort of arrangements. Like there was a year where we were mostly here when we would take smaller trips. And then there was a year where we would be, I think we went to, it was like South America for 3 months. Then we were here for a couple of months. And then it was Europe for 2 months. And then we're back here. And then it was Costa Rica for a month. And so we'll do these little like pockets of travel. And then these days, well, then the pandemic hit. And so we've been pretty stationary since and lived in the same house for 3.5 years. Now we're about to move next week, actually, to a bigger house. I'm pregnant. So digital nomad life is about to look, thank you. That's about to look a little different, but we always kind of decided that we were going to do things our own way and like in a way that's authentic to us as a couple and as individuals. And, it's like the lifestyle entrepreneur phrase, even that came from an early mentor of mine who she was the first person I saw on the internet who had a business and was traveling all the time. And I was like, whatever the heck she's doing, I want to learn what it is. And she always talked very specifically about building your business around your lifestyle instead of trying to fit your lifestyle into, the pockets in between your work hours and that kind of thing. So I just committed to that early on. And it's really important to me with my whole family being in Scandinavia, and we've got family and friends all over there, all over the place. My husband has family in Costa Rica. So we like to be able to be mobile and we also like having a home base. So it's really just about the freedom and the choice. It's knowing that we can get up and move anytime, or, we could spend 95% of our time in one place, but we like having the option.
Yeah, and I think my wife and I feel that very similar to that. We both travel a lot for work. We're trying to travel more together. We have kids, there's 5 kids total. So it's like, 2 are still at home and one of those is going to be graduating high school. So it's like, there's going to be some degree of freedom, but it feels like when we go, one of us goes on a trip, if we go separately for work, it's like as soon as we get home, we don't want to go anywhere for a while. And so when I think about that first trip that you guys took, that was, 11 countries in 10 months, was that
Yeah.
what it was?
Mhm.
So that's a big trip, and it probably gives you a taste of a nomad lifestyle, but it also is like very frenetic, right? Wasn't it? Like, what did you tell me about tell me about where you went on that first jaunt?
We were very intentional about not feeling like tourists. We like
Yeah.
to see, a few tourist highlights when we go to amazing places, but we also, more than anything, we want to experience kind of living as a local as much as possible. So we spent a little time in Scandinavia to see my family, and then we were down in Thailand, Vietnam, Australia, New Zealand, and then over to, where do we go? Ecuador, Costa Rica, Peru,
Oh, wow.
probably some other places I'm forgetting now, but we tried to spend like at least 3 weeks and oftentimes closer to 4 in each place. Like in New Zealand, for example, we were there for 3 weeks and we rented a car and drove slowly from south to north, so it gave us enough time to kind of hang out in a town long enough to live in an Airbnb, go to the local market, cook at home, meet locals, and we still got to cover a lot of ground. So it was, I think neither one of us, we're not like travelers who just like to check things off the list. We saw this, we saw this, we saw
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
That would feel too frenetic to me. But it was like seeing the highlights. So we had a travel blog at the time. It was called Beach Play Grub, because our priorities were as much beautiful beach time as possible,
Right. And
as much
eat.
amazing food,
Right.
and then just like play and adventure. So we were really prioritizing that. And that's kind of how we paced it out.
Yeah. And then did you find yourselves at any time saying, I could live here?
Sometimes my husband's dad is from Costa Rica, so anytime we go there, he kind of feels like I could live there.
Okay, that
And
doesn't count.
yeah.
That one's well, something with a family
Yeah,
connection doesn't really count because you're always going to
exactly.
feel a little of that. Okay.
I'm
But
never
otherwise,
quite as sold because I don't love humidity quite as much as he does.
uh-huh.
So,
Yeah.
but I think Vietnam was the one that stole my heart. I don't know that I wanted to live there, but I was just so surprised by how much I loved it. So I could have easily spent not just a month there, but like 6 months and been very happy.
Okay. Okay. So then there are different levels of that. I want to talk about, a lot of people will find themselves living this lifestyle. Not everyone is going to turn it into their business or have their business connected. They can just do their business from anywhere. They could
Work
be an investment
remotely.
banker and be
Yeah.
living in a different place every 3 or 6 months. So
Mhm.
for you, how did that kind of all come together?
It ended up, I was really curious because I wasn't sure how it would work out. But before we left, I was doing a mix of virtual coaching and in-person coaching. So I would still see, sit down with clients in coffee shops all around San Francisco, which I loved because I love hugging them and seeing them in person.
Yeah.
But I knew that ultimately virtual was going to be a lot more convenient. So once we left, I was like, well, I guess I'm a virtual business now. So we did that. And then, of course, when the pandemic hit, I was like, been doing this for years, no problem,
Right. Right.
But it was basically exactly the same. The only thing I had to adjust was just time zone stuff. The majority of my clients have tended to be in Pacific time, mostly California. I'll get some folks in different places in the US and occasionally someone in Europe. But it was more like I had to do a little time zone calendar gymnastics. Like in, New Zealand or Australia when I was there, it was a little tricky to find like the overlap between my California clients and what I was willing to be online over there. So,
Yeah.
but that was it. Otherwise, it was just same.
Well, and I'm a big believer that, no two people are exactly alike. No two coaches, no two trainers, teachers, service providers, whatever it may be, no two plumbers are exactly alike. We're unique individuals, and how do we bring that to what we do? So is there something about what you do that you figure is somehow just different or or makes that experience different for your clients?
I think for me, so a big focus in my work, which is also, I think of my work as an expression of who I am. One of my biggest core values, like I mentioned, freedom, and what are the other ones I mentioned? Freedom and play for traveling. But when it comes to just living my life and also how I run my business and also what I work with my clients on, authenticity is one of my biggest core values.
Uh-huh.
And so for me, the beautiful part about having a coaching business is I get to have a business that is an expression of who I am. And as a coach, I know that, it's not just about information that I'm giving to my clients. They could find that on the internet for free. It's
Right.
about it's about the relationship, the container. It's the way that I facilitate. It's the way that I coach. It's the way that I pull things out of the depths of their soul. It's how I model thinking for them. It's a lot of my clients, I think they see the way that I look at the world and how I think, and they get a lot of their inspiration from that because it forces them to consider possibilities that they had never considered before, that kind of thing. So I think one of the things that's unique about me is just I am very, very committed to my own authenticity. And that's a huge part of my mission with my clients and just with anybody and anybody who dares to be around me. I'm like, you're going to get an
You're
invitation to be your most badass, unapologetic, authentic self, because that's kind of the only thing I'm available for. I'm really not interested in being around, a bunch of facades that people are putting on because they're trying to fit in or impress you or any of that. I just want to see your soul.
Yeah, and you take that. So, because authenticity is a word that gets thrown around a lot. We
Mhm.
talk about it a lot on both of my podcasts. We talk about it from a human point of view, and we talk about it from business point of view, and where those intersect. And
Yeah.
it's like what's coming from you is you're just giving the heads up. Hey, this is who I am. What you see is what you get. And it doesn't matter if you're a friend or a client. I'm going to have the same interests.
Yeah.
I'm going to have those interests, and that's something that's, I think, more prevalent in our time. It was not always the case. You
Mm-mm.
had to comport yourself into whatever
Right.
your business needed you to be.
Got to be
So
appropriate for the
yeah,
workplace.
what's appropriate for the workplace. Now we don't even have a workplace in a lot of cases. And I think where work needs to be done on site, we should make it on site as beautiful, wonderful, and conducive to happiness as possible. But where it doesn't need to be on site, nobody needs to be on
Yeah.
site. Let me ask you, when you were traveling, or when you are traveling, how much, I know you're the same person, but how much time do you spend thinking about work, executing work, and all of that versus saying this is just for fun? Is there some kind of difference?
I would say it's honestly the same because being an entrepreneur, I mean, one of the blessings and the curses of it, as I'm sure you know, is we don't necessarily get to turn our brains off at 5 p.m. Luckily, though, again, with the like business being an expression of who I am, I would say I'm constantly thinking about my business.
Yeah,
Sometimes it's in a stressed state because I'm trying to problem solve or I'm trying to figure something out or I'm trying to, work on something. But even in those cases, I'm working on a problem that I chose, like my idea of doing something that's not this, like working a 9 to 5 or having a job that's just clock in, clock out paycheck. That's like my worst nightmare. And even if it was the easiest job in the world and it paid really well, I couldn't do it. It's like I have to do work that is mission driven, that is soul led for me. And
yeah,
because I've chosen that path, I'm like, bring it on. I'm happy to think about my business 24/7 because I love it. I even, I
yeah.
love the hard parts. I love the challenges. I love the roller coaster. So it's I'm always at choice, which is nice. And so
Do
same
you?
thing when I was traveling, it was just again, just like different time zones, but
Yeah,
kind
yeah.
of
But I was going to ask you, do you find yourself sometimes at a burnout? Like, are you in danger of, because we can get burned out on things we
yeah,
like,
sure.
but do you ever find yourself like, oh my gosh, there's overwhelm now, or there's,
The way I would describe it, so I've been doing this for 12 years, and now I have, the benefit of zooming out and looking back on the last 12 years. So it gets less and less dramatic for every year. But I would call it has been a roller coaster this whole time. And oftentimes when I'm on the down dip of the roller coaster, I forget to zoom out and remember that it's a roller coaster. And so I think I'm
yeah,
on like careening down off a cliff. And I have moments where I think, should I just burn it all to the ground? I have moments, I probably get in a quote unquote fight with my business, I would say once or twice a year. I have like a little bit of an identity crisis, like niche meltdown, probably once or twice a year. Lately, I've been like, it's just my annual shamanic death. It's just my
Yeah,
annual
yeah.
dark night of the soul. But each time I go through it, I'm pretty convinced that I need to burn the whole thing down and like go do something else. But every time I come out of it, it's like I remember who the F I am and I'm more committed to it than ever. And I find this like renew it's like a phoenix rising from the ashes kind of a feeling where I feel renewed and recommitted and like I don't care what it takes, I'll figure this out. And I love this too much and I love my work and I love my so it's like, and luckily I like roller coasters a lot, so
Yeah.
like I would rather be hanging on for dear life and have my hair flipping around, and it makes me feel so alive even when it's
Well,
hard.
well, it's like that renewal thing is what you needed. The battle, the emerging from the battle saying, okay, I'm ready to go back in and fight for this or make this happen. This is the part of the interview where we talk about, marketing your business, selling your brand. In your case, it is a personal brand
Very
because
personal.
you mentioned you when sometimes we include the logo with a thing and you were like, I don't really have a logo. It's me,
Mhm.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So, when you're thinking about marketing your brand, what have you done? You've been doing it a dozen years. Is there a system that you find that works to get the word out? How do you figure out how many clients you can have, all that stuff?
Yeah. So this has been, I would say, out of all of the many challenges that have come with at least my entrepreneurial experience, this has been the biggest challenge. And it's the one that I feel I haven't like cracked yet. On the roller coaster, I've had, I would say I consider myself successful. I've been in the six figure and up range for 6 years, which is to me, something I'm very proud of. And I'm very eager to get, far beyond that.
Right.
And I've worked with many different mentors and been in many business masterminds. And it's one of those things where I've been studying business and marketing for a long, long time. And I have a lot of information and strategies swimming around in my head. I've had to admit to myself that I'm not the most excellent at executing on said
Yeah.
strategies and doing it consistently for a long enough period of time that I can actually see the results with any given strategy.
Right.
Definitely prone to shiny object syndrome, the way that I think many entrepreneurs are.
Yeah.
And you watching other, all the comparison, you watch other similar entrepreneurs. For me, it's female coaches with online businesses, watching what they're doing. And, it's so seductive. You see their results and you want to go, oh, I need to start a membership. Oh, I need to go do this. Or I need to go do this, So I've tried over the past 12 years, a lot of I've experimented with my business model a lot, but, one-on-one coaching, I've done masterminds, I've done group programs, I've done online courses, I've done memberships. I've kind of tested all of these different models. I've tried many different, mostly organic, but some paid marketing
Hmm.
strategies. Did Facebook ads like once for a launch. I've done Yelp ads on and off over the years. And then lots of organic, email marketing, my usual social media stuff. I hired a social media agency for a year and ultimately decided I don't like someone else writing for me. I want it to be
Yeah.
my voice. I just would go through and completely edit everything they wrote anyway, but it helped me be consistent, So I've experimented with a lot of things. Ultimately, if I zoom out again and look at the 12 years, I have not yet found a system that is like the system that has worked consistently well for me. So I've dabbled and things have worked better, slightly less well over the years. The thing, interestingly, and then people always tell me I'm like a unicorn in this regard, the source of leads that's been the most consistent for me is Yelp,
Hmm.
which is like
Yeah.
unheard of in the coaching industry. I mean, that's great for like nail salons and restaurants, but
Right.
like
Right.
who find their coach on Yelp? Apparently that's where they find me. I think it's a product of I've been on Yelp for 12 years. I started as a personal trainer. So it was like I already had a little bit of I've got like 40 plus 5-star reviews on there. And people also find me on Google. I'm like, I don't have the
Uh-huh.
best website in the world. I haven't been particularly intentional about SEO. I used to blog really consistently. I don't anymore. But I think just by virtue of being on the internet for 12 years and having enough stuff on there, I've had some PR and some articles written about me and stuff like that. So it's like if somebody types in, life coach near me somewhere in the Bay Area, or if they go to Yelp and they type in life coach or career coach, typically I'll show up, or they'll Google something, which will lead them to my Yelp, or they'll find me on Yelp and then they'll go to my website. I always ask, when I'm on discovery calls with people, like, so, you typed in career coach or you typed in life coach, you found me, you went to my website. I recognize I'm not the only coach that shows up on the internet. Why did you choose me? What pulled you to
Right.
my page, my profile or my website? And I often get a lot of things where people are like, I was reading through what you said on your website and just really resonated. Like it really hit home, or like I loved your beachy photos or that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
And so it's one of those things. I'm like, I'm so grateful for that. People just randomly find me, which is amazing. And then also referrals from former clients, and just people know me through other things too. And so they find me, but I'm grateful for that. And it's not a reliable marketing strategy. Sitting back and
Yeah.
hoping that enough people find me on Yelp is not a marketing strategy. That's just kind of like luck,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
being visible, but
yeah, I mean, I struggled with that also because for many, many years it was strictly referrals. And if you're working within a niche industry or something, as I was working in footwear or the commercial production or whatever it was, when it's a small community, everybody knows you, then those word of mouth things are perfectly fine. I never thought of advertising. I have different opinions about advertising and when to do it, and it's usually, in my own humble opinion, it's usually later on when you're really on a roll, but you need to expand, you need to
yeah.
scale. You're opening a studio, let's say, and you're opening some kind of brick and mortar location, or you're doing something where you want people to find you, who never heard of anybody that you've
Yeah.
ever know, and they just have to find you. You have to go out to those places. Now you're expecting, when are you due?
Halloween.
Halloween. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Very cool. Okay.
Yeah.
So you have a little time. You have a
Mhm.
little time to get ready. What do you see changing for you and your husband in the next year as pertains to your business?
Yeah. I mean, the nice thing is I really have, like I said, I've prioritized the lifestyle part of being an entrepreneur, a lifestyle entrepreneur, probably a little much. If you talk to any of the bro marketers out there, they'd be horrified at how little I work compared to what hustle culture tells us we should do in the
Well,
early years.
yeah.
Of course, it's everyone has their own choice, but I've been so committed to wellness and working out and lifestyle and travel and those things. So I've always kind of like I keep the hours that I work. Like I only take calls between 12 and 4, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Really
Okay.
simple, which gives me the rest of the time in the week I can work on my computer, do everything else in my business whenever I want to. So that has always worked really well for me. And then I do all my, sales calls and podcast recordings, and anything that's a live call is all batched together in one. So I'm like hair and makeup ready and that kind of stuff. So like preparing for the baby coming, it's going to be kind of the same thing. I'll have my set work hours where I'll be available and somebody else will be watching the baby. And then the rest of the time, I can be organizing things the way I need to, which I'm really thankful for. But I do see, basically, I want to only spend time on things that move the needle. So I'm already in
Okay.
that process now where I'm just trying to simplify everything. And like I had a membership for 6 months, and then I realized it wasn't something that was a priority. And so I just closed it. I have no problem changing my mind about things. I have this deep belief that you're allowed to change your mind about anything or anyone at any time, and I will just do that,
Yeah.
no problem. So I'll try
Yeah.
things and then just shut it down. And so I'm trying to kind of whittle everything down and simplify and kind of automate everything so that I'm only spending time on, clients and client delivery, marketing in ways that are actually the most likely to have an ROI, and,
Right.
not dilly-dallying and doing a bunch of silly other stuff.
Right. Right. And I like to give my guests the last word so they can kind of speak to the audience, knowing that the audience there are a lot of mompreneurs in my audience. I know because I've had so many guests and I've got so many comments. There's a lot of entrepreneurs in general. It's a very self-starting audience,
Yeah.
but they're very hungry for information. What's something you can leave them with? First of all, make sure we know where to find you, but something that they can take home with them and kind of apply to their daily lives.
Yeah, so I'm very easy to find. Sandra Possing, you can Google me and you'll find me like all my clients. You just find me on the internet. But sandrapossing.com is my website, and at Sandra Possing on all the different social medias. And I think for me,
Two S's, so everybody knows, right?
in
Possing.
Possing, yes,
Yes.
exactly.
Okay.
POSS, exactly. One of the biggest takeaways for me in this whole journey, again, is just the authenticity piece. It's like, be true to yourself. And I think as entrepreneurs, again, we get so seduced by all the shiny objects, there's a million strategies, they all technically work or they can work, but which ones, having tried so many different strategies, and a lot of them I'm like, I can see why this works. I see it working for other people, but it doesn't feel right for me. Like it doesn't feel, it's not an integrity for me to do something this way. So then I just opt out, or I'm like, it's fine, I can do it, but I don't enjoy it. And yes, we got to do some boring things, and we can't be super excited about every single task in our business, of course, but it's like, find the ways of doing business that resonate for you, that feel like they're in alignment, that I choose in favor of things that make me feel alive and wild and free, because those are my desired, like, core desired feelings. And so I'm constantly designing my life and constantly designing my business to be as authentic and aligned as possible. And in order to do that, we just, we got to know ourselves. And that takes some digging. It takes a lot of paying attention and awareness. And kind of my final word on that is intuition. It's so easy. We've been conditioned to not trust ourselves and to always look outside of ourselves for answers. And I think there's so much merit to, especially as entrepreneurs, especially as women, because we're taught not to trust ourselves at all. And we have so much wisdom hidden inside of us, but we just don't know how to access it. So it's like slowing down and tuning in and learning how to really listen to your own inner guidance is priceless.
All right.
If you liked the show,
Yes, and
it worked for you,
yes, then.
subscribe and leave a
Yes, friend.
5-star review.
Yes, friend.
Tell all your friends.
Yes, friend.
Get your branding here.
Yes, friend.
Get your branding here.
Yes, friend.
Did I make it clear?
Yes, friend.
Get your branding on
Yes.
before they're gone.
Yes.